Please join me in welcoming one of the most positive change makers in our community to share more about his journey and how we can all pursue our greatest lives. Thank you.
Well, first of all, let me thank Oliver for that nice introduction. My wife never got paid. That was a problem. I also want to thank, the real reason why I'm here is because of Mary Ann and Bob Knox. He forgot that part of it. I remember having a conversation with them, and Bob Knox asked me, he said, all I want to do is take better care of my wife. You've got to help me because we're up against all of these things. And part of what I'm going to talk about tonight is about that connection to people and how important it is for all of us. I'd like to thank the people at CCC for always doing such a great job. Thank y'all. And finally, I want to thank Melanie, who always makes me look good. And so it's one of those things. My life has changed a lot recently because most of you know that about a year and a half ago I quit seeing patients. I thought it would kill me, but I actually have survived it. I'm doing a little bit better. I had this strange feeling though. They got to get this light out of my eyes here. Okay, yeah, just turn that just a little bit. Thank you. So I had this strange feeling that I'm supposed to be somewhere, and there are people waiting on me, and it gives me tremendous anxiety. Just, there's something missing. And so I go to Mary, who's not all that supportive on a lot of things. And she says to me, I said, Mary, I feel like I got to be somewhere. She said, Chuck, you're retired. There's no one waiting for you. There's nothing happening, which gives me tremendous anxiety. So that's where I'm coming from. I'm here because I've written 2 books. You can see them up here. The first one was published in 2021 called Much Abides. The second one is published in 2023. It's called Late Fragment. We're going to talk just a little bit about those 2 books in just a minute. Because of the subtitle, Much Abides is a survival guide for aging lives. A lot of my buddies come up to me and they say, that sounds pretty arrogant, and you got a little bit too much swagger, okay, to promise that you got a survival guide. Well, most of y'all, or several of y'all, I can tell by the people's faces that are thinking, how did I get into this? What could this burned out chest surgeon have to say that could be of any interest to me, and never mind a value of what I might say that have a value to you? Well, I'm going to double down on the arrogance because the stuff we're going to cover tonight, if you open your mind and your heart a little bit, it has the potential to change your life. So how could this be possible? Okay, how could something that I say have that kind of effect? The books come from my 10-year experience of taking care of people losing their memories and caring for the people that are caring for them. This experience changed me as a person. It changed me as a physician. And also, it made me a different student of the human experience. The proximity to suffering and seeing people perform in such magnificent ways for caring one another has changed my whole perspective about what this is all about. In my career as a heart surgeon, I could fix things. People come to you with a problem. It could even be a life-threatening problem, and oftentimes it was fixable. Families come together and there's a crisis, and we put Humpty Dumpty back together again. The family takes care of the patient till they get healthy, and everybody goes back to living their lives. That doesn't happen with dementia. The day the diagnosis is made, everyone involved, the family, the patient, the children, their lives are changed forever. You have to watch, if you're a caregiver, you have to watch someone you love on this inexorable. What just went down there? Did something fall off? Some strange thing. Okay. I'm hearing things. They have to watch the decline, and then the families have to recover, but they always are scarred by that. And then, of course, the children are thinking about the genetic part of it. Am I going to have to go through this? So this is a completely different experience than taking care of patients when you're operating on them. It's not that I didn't love being in the operating room. I loved it. It's one of the greatest places in the world to be because you've got everybody's attention. Anything you say, they get to do. It's awesome. But in my time, the part these past 10 years have been the most rewarding part of my career. Now, how can that be? Because during the time that don't worry, it's okay. During the time that I'm caring for the patients, that it's no longer an arm's length to caring for someone. You are in it with them, okay? Now, I couldn't, in this whole 10 years, I couldn't impact the disease at all. The side effects I can impact, but not the disease itself. No more than Alzheimer in 1906, when he described the disease, I couldn't do anything more than he could on that day. So isn't that strange? In one part of my career, I could fix things and people went back and they were healthier. And in this part, I was just in it with them. I walked with them. When they were sad, I was sad. And I was there at the end. And so understanding this connection, they didn't expect me. They did not expect me to fix it. But if I was there at the end, it made that whole situation better. So I was given this gift of this insight into the human experience, the proximity to suffering, and watching people deal with it. So both books came out of this experience. And so what I'm going to share with you is what I've learned from that. And both books are about this. The book Much Abides has two major themes. One is the first is a time frame covering late careers and people transitioning to retirement. Now, I wrote a book about retirement, and I should be doing better. Okay, I'm not quite as good at it as I should be. And the second is, what does normal cognitive aging look like? Okay, what does it look like? I saw in my buddies would comment and talk to me and they'd say, you know, I'm not going to the office anymore. I'm retired now, and I'm lost. Okay, and you take the structure off, and you know when you're working, you're in a tunnel, and you're going down that tunnel, and people are putting things in front of you, and you are trying just to keep up with what's put there, and then all of a sudden you wake up at home, and there's no tunnel. There's nothing you're supposed to do. And I used to get a bunch of stuff done when I didn't have much time. And then when I had all day, I don't seem to get much done. With the second theme is the effects of aging on our brains. When someone comes to me now, or at least used to, that I had to decide, do they have it or not? Okay. And the symptoms, I realized very early on that the symptoms of dementia are just a little bit of an exaggeration of normal cognitive aging. So I knew that at Hopkins, they taught me what the disease looked like. When I came back though, I became almost obsessed with learning the normal effects of aging on our brains. And they are significant, and we're going to go over those today. The impact of telling someone that they have dementia or that they're normal is an amazing difference, okay? And it has such consequences that you have to get that right. The new book, well, I do have a book that I'm writing right now. It's called Coming Closer, and it is specifically about that early memory loss and the entities that impact it. I found a gap when I started to look at this, and the gap was that the science tells you exactly what happens to the neurons and the sections in the brain that are affected. We know exactly where it is and what the process is, but it doesn't tell us how it affects the way we perceive the world, of my memory or my behavior. It doesn't get to that. And so what I try to do is make up for the pop culture that gives us all of these fatuous, stupid solutions to things that are crucial. You know, if you're having a memory loss, take Prevagen. Pharmacists recommend it. Pharmacists recommend it. And people are just popping these pills like crazy. There's not absolutely any evidence that any of it works. So what I try to do, so what happened was that book, Much Advised, just came flying out of this obsession. And I think that y'all are going to get some copies of that. Okay, so he's going to. But the science, and what Much Advised tries to do is to put the science behind normal cognitive aging. The second book came from a very deep place. It is called Late Fragment. It's named after a poem by Raymond Carver. It's the last thing he wrote. He died not even hours after he wrote the poem. And it's in the introduction. But I interviewed over 70 people, most of them between 85 and 95 years old. I wasn't very good initially in interviewing people because I had a bias. People would tell me, oh, I got this. They want to tell me all about their career and all this stuff. And then when I started to get better and I started to scratch the surface and I started to see that everybody struggles with it, but there were some that were fearless, and that as they got closer to their deaths, there was a calmness. And so I wanted to tap into that. I wanted to know what those people thought, how they thought it, and why they thought it. And then several of those people died, and I had to stop writing. To sit there and have these people and talk to them. Some I interviewed multiple times, and some I didn't. I only interviewed once. But when they died, I felt like that I had lost something, and I said, you know, do I really want to do this now? Do I really want to get into this? And so I called my son, and he's a history teacher at Latin. Some people have already stopped me to thank me for that. I don't know if I can take much credit. But, and I said, Chuck, he teaches teachers how to write. And I said, you've got to read this and tell me if I'm onto anything. And he came back and he said, Dad, I think there's a lot that's good here, but you're holding back. You're not getting close enough to these situations, and you're not telling us why it's important to make these observations and how they affect other people. So part of what we're going to talk about tonight in a little bit is from that. I'm looking for those veins of wisdom, those little places where people who have lived long lives and got some of this right. No one gets it all right, but got some of it right. And what are the things that we can hold on to? There are three things that are in their books that they share. And the first is a relationship with time. And we're going to talk about that. The second thing is that, and this is really important, especially in people who are in different stages of life, people who are still working or that are going into retirement. Early retirement is completely different from late retirement. And so each phase of life requires us to make a new set of values and to have new observations. What do I expect of this? And more important, what is expected of me from the people that I love and that love me? Okay, it's really important. The third thing that, and finally the crucial thing is that human interaction, okay, is the only source of authentic joy in our lives. Now, there's a certain amount of joy if you've wanted a Porsche all your life and you sit in it and you drive off. Yeah, I'll give you that, okay? But it's not authentic, okay? Because as you see in people at the age, sometimes they have a lot of money and all of a sudden they start buying all this stuff and they're missing the boat. So that crucial observation, and we're going to talk a little bit about that toward the end. In the book Much Abides, I take 10 mistakes that people make in aging, and I kind of haphazardly put them through the book. Now, why would I choose a negative? Why would I choose the negative? It's easy because if someone comes up to you and says, you know, you really need to do what I do or what I did, you're going to think, who is this jerk who thinks he can teach me that? But if someone says to you, look, I want to share, I made this catastrophic mistake and it's almost ruined my life, I want to share it with you, you're all ears, okay? So that's how I came up with the mistakes. All right, so the first mistake, underestimating the time left. In the United States today, there are 80,000 people who are over 100. 80,000. 25 years from now, that number is going to be 500,000. Okay? And that means, good luck, is there are a lot of y'all that are still going to be alive. Now, what that looks like, that's another issue. But everybody knows the value of the statistics. In the year 1900, the average age for a male was 46 years. 2020, the average age for a female was 80. So what does that tell you? As a group, we're living longer. Okay? Now, let's talk about individuals. How do I know how long I'm going to live? All right? If you are 65 years old, the average age at death is 84. All right? So you get to 65 and the average age is 84. If you live to 70, you get one more year on the average, which is 85. But you hit 80, the average age is 89. Now this doesn't mean you only got 9 years. The average is 9 years. 90, you get to 94, and if you happen to hit the big prize, 100 gets you to 102. So these numbers show one thing very easy, is that the longer you live, the longer you're gonna live, okay? That's good. Now, is living longer luck, or do we have any control? Well, there was a study that was published in 2008 and followed 2,527 men. It was published in the Annals of Internal Medicine. And if you were normal weight, non-diabetic, non-smoker, your blood pressure is under control, and you exercise 2 to 4 times a week, those people were 72 average, and 54% of them live to be 90. So the point is that if you get to 65, the average is that you've got over a 50% chance of living to 90. Okay? Now, there's this lament that if I could just do this over again, I could make up for a lot of stuff that I've done, mistakes and stuff. Well, if you're 65 years old, 90 is 25 years. That's a lifetime. So I want you to realize that we've been given a gift of time. Now, one of the things about the second book is that a lot of that time is going to be tacked on in a late fragment. And we're going to have to deal with a lot of issues of loss and when life gets hard. And that's one of the things that the book stresses is, what do I hold on to when I'm 92 years old? And I can't go out there and play golf anymore. What is it how am I going to navigate this? The second shared theme is the fact that at every phase of our lives, we need to have a new set of priorities and a resetting of reality. This is really important. Success in each of those phases depends on the painful decisions you make. And one major mistake that I saw in these people that I interviewed was of individuals trying to take the trappings of careers, okay? The success that you felt in careers and the position you had in careers and take them into your retirement age. Okay? Trying to keep the corporate jet, bad idea, okay? You need a new set of priorities. And what do those priorities, let's talk about retirement, the R word. I hate it. I couldn't say it. I said I quit. I didn't retire, you know. It's a major transition because it's kind of the payoff. Everybody's talking about, well, when I retire, I want to do this. When I retire, I want to do that. Well, for us, it's the payoff. I've worked hard. I've saved my money. And now here I am. On one Thursday morning, I get up. What do I do? What is this all about? How will I know when it's time to retire? What will I do when I retire? And where will I retire? Another question, of course, and this is what Verum gets you into, is how much money will I need? Well, the answer to that question is just a little bit more, okay? So there's dramatic shifts that have to occur when we move into that later stage of life. Egos have to get smaller. We are no longer, I wrote in the book, Eliot wrote, I am not Prince Hamlet, nor was I meant to be. I'm there to swell a scene and to advise the prince. We are no longer the center of attention. We have others in our life that need to be the center of attention. Okay? That's the way that we stay connected, though. We need to develop an active awareness of what's going on in other people's lives. And it's especially important to know what's going on in the lives of those that are very close to us, the people that we are responsible for, and the people that love us and that we love them. It's interesting in that as we age, the older we get, the less people care about what you did. Okay? If you want to bore someone, you start talking about, oh my gosh, I was vice president of the bank. Now, at one time in Charlotte, we worship bankers. That's a great thing to walk in a country club and you're 40 years old and I'm a banker. Ooh, you got it. But when you're 85 years old, no one gives a damn what you did. They don't care what you the job that you had. You need to have the ego for the success, But what people are really interested in that point is share your vulnerabilities with each other and share the human experience. Don't try to impress. We're going to talk about that in just a second. All right, how many boomers do I have here? How many boomers? I know, all the younger people, they're thinking, these boomers, we're so tired. All right, early boomers, 46 through 55, and then late boomers, 55 through 64. Okay. Now, we are the most successful generation that has ever lived, okay? We are the most highly educated, and we've made more money than any group in history, okay? And if you want to know our achievements, you just ask one of us, we can give it to you. Okay? And we don't even expect y'all to live up to our standards. But what we learned is the first day we went to school, they told you, we're going to have a special class, and it's going to be outside. And because we've got 30 more people in the class, and it used to be that there were 14 people, and now there are 32. So what did we learn to do? We learned to compete with one another. If you wanted to be in the school play, you had to know that you had to try out, and there were going to be 5 people that wanted the role. You went out for football, and there were tons of people that wanted to play on that football team, and you could get cut. Now, people don't get cut anymore, and they get a trophy for participation. But what those things, that ability to defer gratification and to have singularity of purpose. I talk about the right answer. I thought about the day that I was going to finish my career, and I was going to walk out of that place on Hawthorne, right across the street from the hospital. And I thought, I've been dedicated to the right answer for a long time. The right answer got me into the University of Virginia. The right answer got me into medical school. And when I was doing my training at Duke, I had to use that right answer. And during my career, that right answer saved lives. And this day, I'm getting ready to walk out, and I've got all these right answers in my brain, and no one gives a damn. No one's going to ask me for the right answer, and I'm going to lose the effect that I've had. So there's a sort of a process, and some people can't get used to that. I may be one of them, but think about this, that the things that are not going to work in retirement are competing with other people, okay? The idea that you're always looking at what other people are doing instead of develop your own value system, it runs out of steam. So what we're looking at is not competing with other people, but connecting with other people. And this becomes so important the older we get. This connection to other humans is, again, the only authentic source of joy in our lives. And it becomes exponentially more important as we get closer to that final sort of judgment. All right, so common mistake number 2 is not being aware of the effects of aging on our brains. All we have to do is look in the mirror. You're not gonna, you look at your face, you look at how things change, the wrinkles and the little areas. Now I know we don't have a lot of wrinkles because Botox. We have a neurologist in our office that does injections with Botox for spasms and stuff. And my nurses, there's always just a little bit left over. I don't have a nurse they're walking around like this, and their skin is so tight. I'd say, what's going on here? Their eyes are wide open. So if we look in the mirror, we have to understand that the same effects on our skin, our hair, and our physiognomy are going into our brains. So I want to kind of give you an idea of the things that I don't worry about as we age, okay? You're going to love the first one. I don't care about names. Names or we peak at, think about this, if you're trying to remember someone's name, you can remember everything about them. You say, I remember that when I was growing up, she lived across the street and her sister was prettier than she was, and I could give you the whole spiel. But it's sort of an abstract moniker that she has a name attached. Now, it will come. It might come in 20 minutes, it might come in 2 weeks, but it will come, okay? But I don't think of names necessarily being an indication that you have dementia, okay? The second thing I don't care about is technology. Technology actually has changed aging. My grandfather was a tall guy. If he was here, he would have walked in here. He probably finished the 8th grade. He would try to tell you that he finished the 10th grade, but my grandmother would tell us he only finished the 8th grade. He was smart. He was a politician from South Boston, Massachusetts. And if he walked in, he would have had a beautiful seersucker suit, Panama hat, and the two-tone shoes, and he was a power. And everything he said was gospel to my brother and I. He would take us everywhere, take us to see Ted Williams play, he took us to New York to the World Series, he took us everywhere. He would even take us to battlefields. Now, he would, until we were old enough to read the signs of what happened at the battle, he would tell stories. And he would tell us that right here, the Union soldiers were stacked up to your arms. You know, we're listening. And we found out it's a Revolutionary War battlefield. I mean, it's just, but his stories were much better than his signs. But the difference is that we worshiped him and we wanted to be with him. My grandchildren will actually take an iPad, rip it out of my hands, click 3 things, and put it back in my hand and think they're smarter than I am, okay? They'll do that all the time. So that respect and that awe-inspiring sort of prestige is gone, right? They think they're smarter than we are because they can fiddle with that stupid phone. Right? Third thing is errors. We are more capable as we age of making errors, okay? We don't take the time to work through things, or we hurry and we don't realize that there's something in our brain, especially in the frontal lobe, that makes us aware of errors. One of the chapters in the book, that if y'all get it and we'll read it, is on superagers. And superagers are people that test at 70 like they did at 25. Everybody wants to be one. But they pick up errors. They would walk in here and say, you know, there were 2 lights and one of those chandeliers are out. You know, I mean, they just have this instinct about what doesn't look right. Now, the only time I care about errors and being aware of them is when you're driving. And I want my patients to, when you're getting ready to go somewhere, I want you to, before you turn it on, I want you to think about where you're going. And I want you to reroute that in your brain. I don't want you to be surprised. And then what that does is it calms you down and says, okay, get ready to get in the car, where errors can be drastic. So anytime that you're planning something, sit down for a second and think about it, recreate it. One of the first things that goes in something like frontotemporal dementia is not being able to retrace those streets in your brain. Going into a room, this happens all the time. You're upstairs and you're putting up a picture, and you don't have a nail, so you go downstairs, and when you get downstairs, you go, why did I come downstairs? I can't think about what. So what you do is, instead of thinking that you've got dementia, go back up the stairs, and as soon as you see the picture, boom, it comes back. All right. We also make these glitches. We have times we do something really stupid, or like what happens is that you'll be filling up your gas tank and you put your credit card in and it says, what's your zip code? And you'll go, wait a minute, why the zip code? And you get back in the car and say, I've got it. You know, I know that I've got dementia. So glitches, I don't really care about. I used to go to this coffee shop on Park Road. It's called Muggs. And because I was on my way to see patients in their homes or where they were staying on Thursday. So it was kind of a ritual. And I had a patient, and the caregiver, the wife, had a kiosk in this shopping center. Y'all know where the Giant Genie used to be on Park Road? Okay, that's what I'm talking about. And so I come out, and the patient would sit on this bench, and you can see it sitting right there, and he just watches the world go by. So I come out, I got my coffee, and he gets up, and he goes, I know you. And I said, Mr. Jones, you do know me. And he said, high school. We went to high school together. And I said, Mr. Jones, I'm your memory doctor. And he goes, you're doing a terrible job. So we talk a little bit, and I get in the car, and I start to drive off. And he starts screaming. He says, stop. And I go, what does he want now? And I roll the window down. And he reaches up and grabs my coffee, and he hands it to me. And he said, you don't know how good this makes me feel. So big glitches like this, hold them lightly. Don't worry. Everybody's going to have them, and it's not a sign that you're going down the tube. Okay? So common mistake number 3 is not realizing the crucial ways to protect your brain during that aging process. The one, depression is very common as we age. And over 50% of people with dementia have depression. But depression is very different later in life, okay? It's different. Instead of someone that's 25 years old and they are depressed, they have their whole body, their whole carriage is impaired. And you look at their face, and their facial expressions reflect that they are depressed. Oftentimes the signals are that it might be someone that used to be very easy to get along with, and all of a sudden they are extremely irritable, or they're angry, or that they used to love to play golf, and now they have anhedonia, things they love no longer give them pleasure. And I think that there's a significant portion of people who are in their 60s, 70s, and even 80s that have sort of subclinical depression. They've lost that zest for life. They just don't care anymore. And so if you have a spouse or a friend or something and you see it, people will say, I'm not taking any pills to be some zombie. I'm just not doing it. All we do is give a little bit of medication to return those neurotransmitters back to normal levels. And you don't think that you're going to be a different person. The second thing is, now the guys from Verum are not going to like this. And I'm sorry, Oliver, but the most important number in your life is not that number that comes on your monthly statement telling you how much money you got with them or in the bank. The number one number in your life is when you go to the doctor and they measure your blood pressure and they tell you what it is. And sometimes, because our vessels get a little bit sclerotic, aging causes hypertension. So when you go to the doctor and they take your blood pressure and they say, oh my gosh, you're nervous, it's 160 over 92. And you go, I always test normal. I have white coat syndrome. Well, white coat syndrome doesn't exist. Okay, it means that every time you get a little nervous, your blood pressure is shooting up. So what you do is you tell the doctor or the nurse that does it is, I'm really not that nervous. I think we need to look at this. And they'll come in and talk about possible medication or whatever, okay? Hearing loss. The number one marker for cognitive decline in a lifetime is not vascular risk factors. It's not genetics, it's hearing loss. So if you feel like, she just gave it to him. Poor guy, he's all bruised. The guy's bruised. But hearing loss, And I have some, but get it tested, go to Costco and get really good hearing aids for a lot cheaper. But hearing loss is the #1 marker for cognitive decline. All right, sleep. Sleep is incredibly important. I like my patients, and everybody's going to just shake their heads, I like them to get 9 hours of sleep a night, okay? I like you to go to bed at 9 o'clock. Nothing good happens after 9 o'clock. It never has, it never will, okay? So, 9 o'clock, what do you think, Freddie? Freddie, you're an 8 o'clock man, okay? That's right. So, because sleep, okay, first of all, REM sleep. REM sleep is rapid eye motion, meaning you're dreaming, and you're paralyzed, all right? The locus ceruleum, that you are paralyzed in bed when you dream. If you sort of act out your dreams, then that's a different thing. That's called REM behavior disorder, and it's a different thing. But sleep, going into those deeper levels of sleep, cause the neurons to shrink, and these things called microglia take out all the toxins. So we want good sleep, all right? What undermines sleep is alcohol, okay? And alcohol prevents you, at least higher levels of it, from going down into those deep levels, okay? So I like my patients that if they want to have a cocktail, I don't like this business of having a cocktail and then a whole bunch of wine at night. And a lot of times we get better at this, but sleep depends on, and the benefits of sleep, going down to those lower levels. Also, we don't really know why REM is so important, but if you prevent people, if you wake them up when they go into REM, when you allow them to sleep, they will REM for 24 hours. I mean, you can just see it. And they think it might be that that's where we get rid of anxiety and the things that bother us. Destructive medications. I don't want to get too much into this, but there are 4 medications: Xanax, Ativan, Klonopin, Valium, Librium, all that class. They're given out very readily for anxiety, okay? They are very addictive. The joke at Hopkins was that you don't start them, but once they're started, don't stop them. Klonopin is a drug that builds up in your system, and it would take me a year to get someone off of Klonopin. But those drugs, Xanax, makes you high and calm. Who the hell wouldn't want to take it all day long? I mean, just let me have some more of this stuff. It lasts about 8 or 9 minutes. And so if you are dealing with that, also sleep medication, some of those are also benzodiazepams. You have to be careful because they're very addictive. Dental hygiene is really important. If you look at people with periodontal disease, the incidence of dementia is much higher. And so make sure that you continue to get your dental appointments and follow what they say. I want to talk just real short, about anxiety. We live in a tremendously anxious world. And it has increased. It has increased. And in the human brain, anxiety is manifested by obsessions. That you become absolutely obsessed with certain things. Obsessive compulsive disorder, of course, the compulsion is the repetitive act that you do to allow the anxiety to go away. Now what's happened, of course, is that we have become obsessed with phones. And the phone, especially in our younger people, doesn't cause the compulsion about the compulsion is being on the phone. It doesn't reduce the anxiety. It actually increases it. And so you've got this vicious eddy where you want to know what's going on. You get out your phone, and you're going on it. And as adults, we are just as guilty of this as we are for the young people. You notice, you go into a restaurant, and there'll be a family, and there'll be 2 or 3 children. They'll be goofing around, and their mother and father will both be on the phone. It drives me crazy. And Mary says, "You can't say anything." I said, "All right, I won't say anything." We also have to protect ourselves from allowing external sinister elements into our psyche. Get your news, okay? Get your news, and then get away from it. All right? That everything doesn't have to start with politics, and do not allow people who are trying to get you to hate someone that disagrees with you in your life. It is poison. It's poison on the right, and it's poison on the left. And somehow we have allowed all of this social media and these 24-hour news channels to poison us and come between what's the source of authentic joy? Is talking to one another, listening, talking, sharing. And what do? We sit there here, and 2 people will be at dinner, and they won't even talk to one another. Okay? It's not going good. All right. I want to end with the 5 things that I saw from all of my talks with these older people. The first thing, and so these are things that I want you to do. The first thing I want you to do is to smile. 70,000 years ago, the frontal lobe started to come into our brain. And the frontal lobe is where we interact with each other. And we are absolutely programmed to read other people's faces and whether they present sinister elements to us. And what's the antidote to someone who has a sinister face? You see someone, you say, "That guy's really pissed off." And all of a sudden he smiles and you go, "Hey, smile." 1, it tells the world you haven't gotten the best of me yet. It also convinces you that you've still got a little tread left on your tire. And 3, when you smile, you can absolutely feel the neurotransmitters going up into your brain. So when you enter a room, you don't have to necessarily talk to everybody, or when you're having some sort of, you're meeting someone, or there's just something going on. A simple smile is a way that you are allowed into the system. The second thing is we get to a certain point in life and we no longer kind of celebrate ourselves. We're just kind of going along and checking some things. And I want to make a point to y'all that no one with your DNA and your life experiences has ever lived before. You are a unique story. You have unique perspectives, you have unique ideas, and we need for you to share those ideas with us. Okay? Everybody's become very nervous about sharing their thoughts. It didn't used to be that way. Everybody used to pop off all the time. And now, well, what do you think about this? And everybody looks around, to say who's there. One of the things that's happened in the South is that we used to celebrate characters. All right? Guys that sort of had a little verve. They might have drank too much, but they might have been a great poet, or they might have been a terrific athlete, but they have something. And now it used to be, he might drink a little too much, but he's a great guy. And now we have a tendency to judge him and to sort of eliminate him. And where that leads is everybody leading the same life. If we don't have characters and guys that are willing to step out and be a little bit of a jackass, everybody's acting the same. So jackass it up. I want y'all to embrace new roles, okay? If we're trying to